You're listening to the Jackson House Podcast, the starting point of your journey to recovery. Whether it's you or a loved one navigating mental health challenges or addiction, we're here to offer support. Get to know the dedicated professionals guiding you, hear powerful stories of transformation, and discover valuable tools and tips to maintain your well-being and sustain recovery. Welcome to your supportive community at both West Coast Recovery Centers and Jackson House. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Jackson House Podcast. Today, I am at our recovery center that is located in the San Diego area, Golden Hill area. With me today is Brittny Vickers. She is one of our discharge planners and has an intimate role here with our clients that come through Jackson House. And she's going to share a little bit about her role and her story. And welcome, Brittny.
Thank you.
So, let's start with, what do you do here at Jackson House and share with us about your role?
Okay. So when the clients come in, I meet with them. We do a transition assessment. It's basically, to see where they were before they got here, what their plan is after here, and what we can do to help them along the way. They come in broken. You get to see them when they first come in. The best part is seeing them when they leave here. It's a whole different face. It's a whole different person. And we basically get them set up with housing if they need it, specifically like PHP, IOP, sober living. And then we kind of transition them out. We help them also with, any kind of EBT, disability, any kind of resources that they need to the next step. Some people come in here and they don't have anything, and we have donations that we're able to give them and clothes. And there's a lot of people that come in here that need help. What got me into this role is, I'm also in recovery. I have 3 years clean, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was working at, low-end jobs, just regular jobs, and I finally decided, I wanted to do something to help the community. I got back into school. Actually, first time in college, so I'm a first college student.
Was this before you started your recovery, or was this during that process?
So it was during the process. Okay. We'll back up a little bit.
Okay.
So my recovery journey started in 2021. So my sobriety date is 1/1/2021.
Ooh.
So New Year's Day.
Mm-hmm.
When I was probably around 17, 16 is when my drinking started. I was a very secluded kid. I didn't know too much about drugs or anything like that. Partying wasn't allowed in our family. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom was a drug addict. I shouldn't say the term is drug addict. She used substances. Mm-hmm. And she kind of left when I was 5. So it was my dad and my stepmom. They weren't very nice. And so I moved out of the house when I was 17. And I started on my own little journey, hanging out with friends. I was couch surfing, going whatever house was available to live at. I dislocated my shoulder, and they prescribed me Vicodin. So that's where it kind of started. It went from Vicodin and then morphine and then oxys, and eventually ended up to being heroin. Mm-hmm. I was on heroin for about 10 years. Wow. So I was, didn't have nowhere to live. I was living on the streets. I was homeless. I was living in tents. I was living by myself because I didn't trust anybody. Did
you have any communication with your family during that time?
No. I believed that they didn't want nothing to do with me. I believed that, they didn't love me anymore. But the reality was I was pushing everybody away. Mm-hmm. Pushing everybody away because I was dealing with the guilt and the shame of what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting arrested, went to jail for the first time. I was 21, and I did about 3 months in there, and I got out, and I went back to the same thing, because that's what I knew, and it was an easier way of numbing my pain, and I was doing a little back and forth, in and out of jail, getting, caught up with the record and everything, and I went to treatment for the first time. It was in 2016, 2016.
Was this treatment, was it forced upon you, or was this willing?
It was court ordered.
Okay.
So I went to the Salvation Army, and it was a 6-month program. And you can't have your phones, you can't have any kind of sources of the outside world, basically. So they keep your mind on the same thing, like with recovery and stuff. You work in a warehouse for 8 hours of the day, hanging clothes all day long. And you can go out with a buddy. You can't go out by yourself. And I did that program for 7 months. Once you finish the program, they transition you to like the aftercare type of the program, where you start working, and then you have your own room. And I finished the program. I moved out, and right away, the very next day, I relapsed. And then I tried to do it again. I went back to jail. You tried to do it
on your own. You went
back.
back.
Yeah, I tried to do it on my own to get off of it, but it was not as easy as I thought it would be. And I got arrested again, got out, went back to the same program, was there for 2 weeks, left again, went on my, outing again, basically, nowhere to live. I had nobody around me, I was by myself. And then, I ended up meeting somebody that allowed me to stay in their house. And they told me as long as I can help him take care of his daughter, I would have a roof over my head. And she was 7 years old, so I, took that mothering role and started taking care of this person. I grew really close to her, but it didn't stop me. It didn't stop my addiction, and he eventually told me that I needed to move out. That was probably the hardest thing, because
you got to develop this attachment.
Yeah, I grew really attached to her. I don't have kids of my own, but she was like my own.
Yeah.
We got really close, and she was like my fallen angel, basically. She's something that I needed. That love and protection, like, I got from her. And but when I got kicked out of the house, I went right back to my addiction. I was already still doing it, but I went really into it.
Sure.
And I got locked up again, and I was there for about 6 months. And I wanted to be asked if I could release to a program. And so I wrote a letter to the program that I knew. And they accepted it, and I went to court, and they allowed me to be discharged to another facility, or the treatment facility. And this time I was there, I already kind of knew the rules, I knew what was going on, I knew what was asked of me. So I kind of coasted through it a little bit, but it was a little bit different. Like, I actually wanted to be there. Even though I was court ordered again, I actually wanted to be there. I was tired.
Tired of the cycle.
Yeah, I was tired and sick and tired of being tired.
Yeah.
I wanted it to end, and so I went through the program. I completed it again. As soon as I finished the program, I looked for a job. I started working at 7-Eleven just to get my feet on the ground. Started saving up. This was during COVID, so it was a little bit more difficult, because we had to be in the house. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. So everyone was just going crazy, because I'm in a house full of 25 females. Everyone's at each other's neck. So after the COVID happened, I decided that I wanted to move out of the house. I had a friend that I ran into again from a long time ago, and there was a sober living that was available. I moved into the sober living, and this sober living basically saved my life. Because it gave me that accountability, it gave me that support that I needed, and they were so welcoming, and they didn't judge me for my past or anything, and I was doing good for a while. I ended up losing my job because of some things that I shouldn't have done, and I got let go of my job, and I was out of work for a while, and so I kind of went down this spiral again, with depression and anxiety, and I wasn't keeping up with my meetings, I wasn't keeping up with my sponsor, and when I do that, I fall into this hole, and I don't know how to get back out. And so I decided to go use again. It was on New Year's Eve, and I went, and I found someone that had something, and I ended up relapsing. But I call it a lapse because I did come back the very next day.
Yeah.
I wasn't out very long. I did my thing, and I realized, like, you know, what am I doing? This is not what I want to be doing. You know, I have a sober living. I have people supportive of me. I have my family back. And so I came back. It was New Year's. So at 12 o'clock on New Year's Day is when I cut it off.
Yeah.
I stopped. I didn't need the detox because it was only one day. And I went back to my sober living. I let everybody know what happened, and they didn't judge me. You know, arms wide open, hugged me, welcomed me back in, and that's where it started again for me. You know, and I found another job, that's when I decided, like, I think I want to go to school. I was scared. I wasn't very good in high school, so like my grades weren't that great. So I, you know, pushed up the courage to go back to school. And I had a friend that I knew from recovery was like, oh, I'll do it with you. So that kind of motivated me. It helped me out, right? And so we went to school together. So we were both in school for the same thing. I'm going for my AOD, so alcohol and drug counselor. And I'm almost there.
Yeah.
Next semester is my internship, and then next spring I'll be done.
That's awesome.
And I'll have my associates, and then I just got to wait to do my exam for my AOD. And, you know, going back to the school was the best decision that I could make. Of course, I was scared, and I had to face that fear. And I'm almost done with it. And, like, I found this job because I was in school, and I decided, like, I was going to try not working and just do full-time school. And so, like, I was looking for jobs or whatever because I was like, okay, I'm bored staying at home, not having a job. So I was looking just for random jobs, nothing focused on what I'm going to school for. And I got an interview for AutoZone or whatever because it's familiar with O'Reilly's. And so, like, I did the interview and everything. I got hired for it, and I was like, you know what? This isn't what I want to do. I want to be able to do something that I'm going to school for. I want to be able to help people because I've always loved helping people. You know, it's my passion. Besides, you know, helping dogs and animals and stuff, like, I enjoy, like, what's the word? I enjoy just working with people, you know, and helping them. Especially because, you know, someone else helped me, and I want to be able to help that person as well. And so I was looking on Indeed, and I saw that, you know, that they were hiring. And I previously have done H&I panels here before.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was already kind of familiar with Jackson House. And so when I saw it on Indeed, I was like, oh, I'll just apply for it, you know. And I got hired as a PCS, patient care specialist, and I moved up to discharge planner maybe 2 months after. And so I've been discharge planner since. So I've been here about 1.5 years. And I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love being able to help people. And it's, like I said, besides, you know, going to school is probably the best decision I could make.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, I don't focus so much on the past anymore because that's not who I am. You know, I've made mistakes, and I've learned from them, and now it's my turn to help somebody else.
Absolutely.
So.
And what I love about your story, and I think is important for the audience to hear as well, is, you know, this was a cycle for you. And some people come to treatment and then they have a relapse, and perhaps they feel like, oh my gosh, I can't go back again. But you did, and you just kept, you know, you kept at it. And it's kind of like, I picture a radio dial, and it's just like every time you're doing it, you're just turning that knob a little bit more, and that's all good. That's all progression. Even if there's a setback, it's still a progression. So I love that you share that and that you're open about that, and hopefully that encourages other people as well that are, you know, afraid of, you know, I relapsed, I can't go back.
I always say, like, you know, it doesn't matter on how many times you fall. It matters on how many times you get back up. You know, and, like, we all fall. And it really is, like, how we get back up, you know. And it's even better when we have people around us that can help us up. You know, that's the support, that's the network, the community that we, you know, we talk with and build that community. You know, and, like, going to rehab so many times, like, I built that connection. I built that community. You know, going to meetings, you build that community, and, like, you have people that you can call, and they don't judge you. You know, and that's the cool part is, like, you're not being judged. this is a safe place to be.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One other thought that I had is you had mentioned before, that you thought that your, parents didn't love you or support you or didn't miss you. And a lot of people do struggle with that, like whether it's their, just relationships in general.
Yeah.
So for you personally, and just to give other people hope, I mean, there's hope to those relationships again,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we gotta give them a little bit of space, because we've put them through a lot of hurt. And that's the thing, is we think that we're doing more harm to ourselves, or like we're hurting everybody else around us, but the most harm we're doing is to ourselves. And with our family, all they want is us to be better. They just want to help us and support us. And once you get through, the treatment and getting through back to yourself, they will reach out to you again. It's not all gone.
Yeah. And
you'll start getting that family back. We just got to give them a little space, let them earn our trust again, because we lost that trust.
Yeah.
Whoever it may be, whether if it was a relationship or a daughter, son, a mother, father, whatever it may be, like we just have to give them a little space and then allow them to trust us again.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. And I think that's just very helpful for people out there that feel like they've lost it all, just to know that, no, you haven't. And what I hear you saying is that going through treatment, from what you went through personally and what you see clients go through that have walked through Jackson House's doors, is that through treatment, you get a sense of self again.
Yeah.
And through that sense of self again, the relationships start to come back. And they come back in a new way. That's more real and genuine, and you have that extra support from not only the family you've met here, and but the family beyond that's waiting for you. Yeah.
You definitely grow a family after you leave treatment, Yeah. But it's a family that you never lose.
Yeah.
So like I still have my friends from when I was in my program, and they're my best friends. So we stay really close, and those are the friendships that you're gonna have for the rest of your life.
Well, kind of to go back at when you started your first recovery, you were kind of isolated, like you were saying. No connection with kind of the outside world. This was time to focus on you, which obviously there's a time and a place for that. But at Jackson House, I know they have a different philosophy. Where they allow you to have your cell phones, they allow you to stay connected. Because I guess you could say pros and cons to each, but it does allow people to. When they leave here, to get back into the real world and kind of work through some of their real world issues while they're in treatment, and have the support that's surrounding them. So in your experience, what would you say makes Jackson House unique in terms of the way that they provide care compared to other places that you've been or heard about?
So like I've noticed, like with Jackson House, they have a lot more groups, which is very important for the clients. They get a little bit more insight on their coping skills, identifying those triggers, something that they didn't know before. It kind of brings it out a little bit more with them. And, having their phone is like, I think it's important, only because like they can still keep in contact with their family, they can still reach out to them, they can still have that support at their fingertips. And also within the house as well. I've noticed, like, it's a tight-knit group here, and a lot of the clients will make a group chat, and they get to connect with them outside of here. So they keep in contact with each other, and they message each other and say, hey, you want to go to a meeting, and, like, they keep that support, and, like, with having the alumni meetings and the groups and stuff, it makes them happy and makes them feel connected, and having that support once again, my program was a little bit different. We didn't really have that. We didn't really have an aftercare plan. We didn't really have the PHP and the IOP, the next step up or next step down. Yeah. Ours was it was a little bit different, but what I love about Jackson House is they offer that. They offer the resources for the next step. And PHP and IOP, I believe that it's important for the next step of care.
Yeah.
Because it gets you more stabilized, it gets you more prepared for the future, and being out in the real world again. Because you might have lost all that stuff. You might have lost all those coping skills and not knowing what your triggers are. And, it helps you for that next step. So.
Right. And so just to touch on, for those that don't understand that, like here at Jackson House, we're a residential treatment, facility. So, they're spending their days and nights here, and it's, it maybe 3-4 weeks that they, on average, spend here. And then from there, if you want to share, so then the next step from there would be the PHP program, which we connect them to something that's appropriate for them and works with their insurance, and maybe explain the difference between, the PHP and then there's the IOP, but it's all a gradual step down to integrate them back into life, but also continue their treatment. Yeah.
So you start off with detox and you step down to residential, and then the next step is PHP. So PHP is more, it's a partial hospitalization program. It's not necessarily in a hospital.
Right.
It is more like a 9 to 3, so you're doing groups all day. You're learning more and more about yourself. You're learning more about the addiction. You're learning more about other people as well. It's just come to terms with who you are and finding that. And then after you finish that program, the PHP, it goes on about 2-3 weeks, and then you step down to IOP. So there's IOP 5 and there's IOP 3. So IOP would still be 5 days a week, but it would be 3 hours a day.
Right.
And then that's when you can start looking for a job, and then getting back into the normal life.
Yeah. And so to go back on that, in your experience, how important is just fully committing to that process and each level of care?
I think it's really important. It's your life, and it's however you want to take it and use it, but having the most care that you can get is so important, because you don't want to end up back in the same spot. Completing your residential treatment and then continuing with your PHP and IOP, you have nothing to lose but everything to gain.
Yeah.
And we have the resources to get the person set up with the next step. We have so many resources for it, and whatever works with your insurances, and we make those connections and we help that person get there.
Yeah. And you do a great job with that. I think that from my experience in talking with people, it is really just committing to that and knowing that it's a process. It's not a quick fix, and obviously people get eager to go back home and get back to life in some cases, but this is such a short period of time. May not feel like that when you're in it, but in the big scheme of life, look at what you've been able to accomplish really in the last 3 years, from where you were until now. You're almost finished with school, and you've got like a profession that's growing with you, and you're going to now use all that you went through that at one point in your life was probably horrible and devastating to really be an impact on other people. And there's I think from everybody that we talk to on this, what makes somebody successful is one, having the connection with others and the support of others, and then finding something that gives them purpose and meaning in what they do. And it seems like you're doing both of those things incredibly. So
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I notice, when clients come in, we ask this one question, what do you like to do for fun? And a lot of clients will say, I don't know. I don't know when the last time was that I was able to do something fun, and I get to ask them that question, again later on, and they tell me oh, I like this, I like that, and they not necessarily do they want to go back to those hobbies that they used to have, because they're a whole different person. And they want to change things up. They want to try something they've never tried before, and getting through the program helps you with that. And that's the thing, is like, we don't know who we are when we go into treatment, but we know who we are after we leave treatment, you know.
I love that.
And like, the thing is like, we have our whole life, you know, and we worry about so much everything else that's going on outside of here. But when we actually sit down and focus on ourselves and work on ourselves, because we haven't done it in so long, it helps us to where, okay, now I know what I need to do, you know, and going to the next step is what I need to do. Everything else can wait, you know. And then when you finish that PHP and IOP and continue with your sober living, you can eventually get back to that, and you're a whole different person.
Yeah.
And you can keep going, and you have, you know, a better chance of sobriety, you know, without that relapse. And we do come in here broken, and we do come in here with guilt and shame, but it's not the end.
Yeah.
You know?
Those are great points, so that, you know, that everybody is on the same page, and whoever's sitting there at home listening to this that feels that guilt and shame, this is the opportunity to say, I'm not alone in this, and let me make that call, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story and your willingness to, you know, help motivate others that want help. What would you say if anybody's listening, or their family is listening, and they have a loved one that's struggling? What advice would you have to give to them?
I mean, I would definitely tell them to ask for help. You know, they're not alone.
Yeah.
Everyone is here to support them. They're not going to be judged. You know, if it was a loved one, being on the other side now, you know, it's hard to see someone struggling, and all we want to do is just help them. And the best advice that we can, or suggestions that we can give them, is that we're here for them. You know, we're here to support them in every way. You know, when people come in here, they're scared. And the hardest part is walking through that front door. But knowing that you're not alone, and you have people around you to support you, is the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
You know, so
Absolutely.
I would definitely ask for the help. So.
Well, thank you. And then thank you for all that you do.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for joining us on today's episode of the Jackson House Podcast. Please remember to like, share, follow, and rate this podcast. Your support helps us reach others who need to know that they're not alone. Together, we are making a difference. One story, one call, one life at a time. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. We hope you've gained valuable insights and feel more empowered in your journey. If you or a loved one is facing mental health challenges or addiction, remember, you're not alone. Jackson House can help. Hold on to hope and take the first step towards transformation. Give us a call at 888-255-9280. Your path to recovery starts now.